This episode is brought to you by the Kirtland Partnership Committee, supporting the Kirtland National Security Complex since 1995. With 109 mission sets across 52,000 acres, Kirtland Air Force Base sits at the heart of innovation, national defense, and global security. KPC is proud to champion military value, economic growth, and quality of life for service members and their families. Learn more at kpcabq.org. KPC, mission-focused, community-driven.
From the Albuquerque Journal, this is the leading news. I'm Gino Gutierrez. It's Monday, September 29th. Here's what we're covering on today's episode. Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller leads the race for an unprecedented third straight term, according to a new Journal poll. Of likely voters surveyed, 29% support Keller, while former Bernalillo County Sheriff Darren White trails at 16%. City Councilor Luis Sanchez and former U.S. Attorney Alex Ubalez each drew 6%, with three other candidates in low single digits. But the contest is far from decided. 37% of voters say they remain undecided, and factoring in voter quote leans pushes Keller to 35% and White to 19%, still well below the 50% threshold needed to avoid a December 9th runoff election. Keller, who has led the city since 2017, is campaigning on progress in reducing violent crime, but faces criticism over homelessness, public safety, and housing costs. White, the best-known Republican in the race, has struggled to consolidate GOP support, while Sanchez appeals to crime-focused conservatives, and Ubalez is drawing younger progressives. Keller also enjoys a major funding edge as the only candidate to qualify for public financing, receiving more than $733,000. Early voting begins October 7th at the Bernalillo County Clerk's Annex, expanding to more sites on October 18th, ahead of the November 4th election. New Mexico's modest population growth over the past 5 years, just 1.6%, is less than half the national rate and has been fueled almost entirely by international migration, according to a new state report. Between 2019 and 2024, the state lost more than 10,000 residents to other states and saw more deaths than births, offset only by 31,671 immigrants moving in. Economists warn that this heavy reliance on immigrant labor makes New Mexico especially vulnerable to federal immigration policy. Immigrants comprise about 10% of the state's population and 12.8% of its workforce, filling key roles in construction, hospitality, manufacturing, healthcare, and education. Roughly 30% live in the United States without legal status, including significant shares of workers in construction at 13.4% and hospitality at 11%. The Trump administration's stricter deportation policies, credited with 2 million immigrants leaving the United States since January, has already had rippling effects here in New Mexico. In June, a Lovington dairy farm lost more than 30 workers to a raid and firings, straining its operations. Supporters like GOP Chair Amy Barela argue there's no clear evidence yet that immigration enforcement has harmed the economy, while immigrant advocates say the state's prosperity depends on protecting these workers from unsafe conditions and deportation. In sports news, University Stadium in Albuquerque transformed into, quote, Rivalryville on Saturday as a sellout crowd of 37,440 people, the first in nearly 2 decades, watched the UNM Lobos defeat the NMSU Aggies 38-20 in the Rio Grande rivalry. This was the 9th largest crowd in the stadium's history and marked a record jump of 19,801 from UNM's home opener attendance earlier this month. The hype built over 2 weeks following UNM's upset of UCLA in the Rose Bowl, and a rare scenario of both teams entering the rivalry game with winning records. Thousands of Aggie alumni living in Bernalillo County also packed the stands, along with celebrities like UFC stars Holly Holm and John Jones, YouTuber iShowSpeed, and ex-NFL quarterback Jeff Garcia. Fans tailgated from the early morning, and UNM even debuted a traveling trophy, quote, the Roaster, a 30-pound chili roaster created by students. The event also revealed infrastructure issues, with thousands lined up outside as the second quarter began, despite expanded parking and shuttles. UNM head coach Jason Eck and university leaders called the atmosphere a major recruiting boost and a milestone for the program. Eck said he hopes the crowd returns for future home games against Nevada and Utah State. Albuquerque's southwest side now has its first ever integrated emergency response hub. On Friday, city leaders opened the Southwest Safety Center at 98th Street and Amol Mesa Southwest, combining Albuquerque Police, Fire and Rescue, and Community Safety under one roof to improve coordination and serve one of the city's fastest growing areas. The $24 million facility, which includes the first new fire station built in 20 years, is expected to cut fire response times in half across much of the district and ease pressure on nearby stations. Police response time times likely won't change because officers typically begin calls from the field rather than a substation. The center also houses Albuquerque Community Safety, which dispatches unarmed social workers to nonviolent calls like wellness checks and behavioral health crises. In the Southwest Corridor, ACS units typically arrive in under 20 minutes. City officials hailed the center as a major step forward. Mayor Tim Keller says it allows all three emergency branches to, quote, work together and take care of the community. While Police Chief Harold Medina praised local officers and urged residents not to blame them for crime levels. The project was funded by a use of city, state, and bond money and built over 18 months. And Pulitzer Prize-winning composer Raven Chacon debuted his ambitious 20-movement citywide composition Tigress on Saturday, transforming Albuquerque into a living concert hall from dawn till dusk. Small groups of early risers began at Sandia Peak, where a rainbow-framed trumpeter Dwayne Hosky's opening movement, quote, prayer, and soon after a trombonist in a hot air balloon launched from the North Valley and performed, quote, the teaching of the wind. Throughout the day, Chacon's work unfolded across 20 sites, from a cello drifting down the Rio Grande to indigenous heavy metal drummers at the National Museum of Nuclear Science and History to Pueblo singers atop City Hall. Lowriders, mariachis, and spontaneous audiences cross paths, creating layered, unexpected moments. Tigress, named for the Tiwa word for the Albuquerque metro area, blends Chacon's decades of performance art in the city with its overlapping cultures and histories, from nostalgic stops like Cafe 66 to darker sites like 4-H Park, built on a mass grave. He said the goal was to spark reflection and community by bringing people to places they might not normally go and to music they might not normally hear. At sunset, a, quote, reverse prayer at Sandia Peak closed the day, mirroring its sunrise beginning and offering audiences a bird's-eye view of the city and its stories. The Leading News is powered by the journalism of the Albuquerque Journal. If you enjoy hearing all of the stories we share with you here daily, please consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Journal by utilizing the discount code in our show notes. Every subscription helps support local journalism and allows us to provide you with the news that matters to you. Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible today after 3 p.m., mostly sunny with a high near 77. As for this evening, partly cloudy skies are expected with a low around 56. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. That's the Leading News. I'm Gino Gutierrez. We'll be back tomorrow.